to my YouTube channel. So today I want to talk about interviewing post-pandemic or after a pandemic. Realistically, we are still in the pandemic, you know, but things are slowly returning back to normal. Today is Saturday, June 19th. Happy Juneteenth, y'all. Happy Juneteenth. So just wanted to let you know when I am recording this, because the way my schedule is set up and me trying to upload these videos is not going as planned, okay? So anyway, interviewing when you've been out of work for months, okay? And I had this Zoom interview back in January that left a very bad taste in my mouth, where the interviewer was very condescending and spoke to me as if, oh my gosh, like, what were you doing all these months? Like, I mean, and it was very inappropriate. And I feel like if I got this type of questioning, there will be other people who will have the same experience. So I just want to put this out there. Now, if you are an interviewer, you work in human resources, yeah, this video is for you. If you know somebody who works in human resources, tag them, send it to them, all that good stuff, you know what I'm saying? Share it with them. But anywho, so if you don't know, I used to be a property manager, right? And I've always wanted to get back into property management, right? So I had been interviewing for property management jobs. But in the meantime, I was working with investors because that was an easy way for me to earn money while I was on the hunt to secure the job in property management that I wanted. However, you know, as I'm interviewing, then the pandemic hit, which slowed a lot of things down. So that halted my search in property management, you know. And I was working with investors, like landlords, people who own properties, helping them to rent their properties. However, that also came to a standstill because people weren't showing up for appointments because of the pandemic. They were canceling last minute, and I wasn't producing as much as I was normally, so I wasn't getting paid anymore, you know. These investors weren't paying me anymore, and so I was out of work, and so now I have no income coming in, so I did have to collect unemployment. However, I was still actively seeking employment, right? And around January, I applied for a position in property management. It was in Manhattan. It was a low-income housing tax credit property. I was like, you know what, this is great. This is right up my alley. I believe that the position was for an assistant property manager. And so it was a Zoom meeting. You know, I was there on time. I was sitting in front of my nice curtains, had a nice shirt on, and there were 3 ladies interviewing. 2 of the ladies were really nice. You know, they introduced themselves. Hi, I am Sarah. You know, let me just tell you a little bit about the position and about our company. You know, tell us about yourself. Very pleasant. And then there was the 3rd lady. She was on one that day. I don't know what her problem was, but she's like,
oh yeah, I'm looking at your resume and it looks like you were out of work for a while.
And so I'm like, yeah, you know, I was working with some investors, but then the pandemic hit, so, you know, it sort of slowed down my job search. So here I am today, you know, I'm just still actively searching for work, and, you know, I applied for this position because this seems to be something, you know, right up my alley. I am very interested, so yes, here we are. And she's like,
well, I mean, what have you been doing for these past few months? I mean, were you doing nothing?
Now, technically, just because I wasn't punching in at a job does not mean that I wasn't doing anything and that I wasn't actively searching for work. And so I was trying to explain this to her, and so then she basically was like,
you know, I see on your resume that you're a realtor. I mean, how many houses did you sell? How many deals did you close? I mean, what?
And yes, this is exactly how she was talking. And I'm sitting there in front of my cell phone, befuddled. And I was sort of shocked because of this type of questioning, not knowing if I should just close my phone out and just carry on about my day, if I should tell her she's being inappropriate, or if I should just finish out the interview optimistic. And I was just conflicted. And so when she said that, I sort of paused and I just sort of looked at my phone, and the other 2 ladies were just sitting in the interview, and they were just kind of quiet, like looking like they weren't saying anything at all. But I was just confused. And my thing is this: I was trying to explain to her that me working with these investors falls under the umbrella of real estate, so I'm not going to have that listed on my resume per se. You know, you get what I'm saying? And that's just like if somebody sells homes, you're not going to list each client or each person that you sold the home to on your resume. That's not what you're going to do. You might put like the amount of sales that you had within that year on your resume, but you're not going to list each client. And so I'm like, did she not understand how real estate works? Like, I was just trying to understand her questioning. And I was also explaining to her that I was also able to get 3 certifications in my field, which I wasn't able to do before because I work so many hours. And I am someone who is very ambitious, and I'm always working toward a goal. You get what I'm saying? So the downtime that I had, no, I wasn't sitting around doing nothing, but even if I was, that's none of her business. I was still getting up early in the morning. I would read every morning. Still, well, I'm working now, so I don't get up and read. I get up, get dressed, and go to work. But I was still working, you know, on myself and working toward bettering myself in my field, so that when I'm able to interview again, I am prepared. You know what I'm saying? So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I got my certification. What was it? The low income housing tax credit training certificate, which I've always wanted to do, so that I'm able to apply for these positions at tax credit properties and have my credentials. I also got another certificate in the affordable housing of New Jersey, affordable housing professionals certification program. Now this is the light is too bright, but I actually got a official certificate from Rutgers, and I'm explaining to her I paid my own money for these courses, you know, while I had downtime, so that when I was able to start interviewing again, I had my credentials in order and I was prepared. I also became a loan signing agent in this time. Also, if you don't know, if you follow me on TikTok, you probably know this, but around November and December, I was extremely sick. Like, I had very bad respiratory problems. Now, it wasn't the Rona, but I do have very bad asthma, and I was sick for 7 weeks. So not only was I sick, but I was extremely petrified of going outdoors, because if I caught the Rona the way my lungs were working, I would be in bad shape. You know what I'm saying? When I tell you I was down, so me going out the house, like, that just wasn't, I wasn't about to do that, you know what I'm saying? And so me even thinking about looking for a job, I was still like, you know, I do need to earn money. However, I was still scared, you know what I'm saying, to be out here in these streets among people. And I didn't get a pulmonologist appointment until February, because doctor's offices were so booked, and you know, they were only seeing a certain amount of clients. They could only have a certain amount of clients in the waiting room at a time, that I couldn't get an appointment to a pulmonologist until February. Meanwhile, I was still looking for work, and when I did see the pulmonologist, they told me that my lungs were operating at 64%. So right now, I'm taking a lot of steroids, and I went to a herbalist to get herbs. I went to see this lady at she has a store called the Tea Room in Jersey City on Communion Park Avenue. So, like, literally, like, you're insulting me, lady, and you do not know that I literally would love to get out here and start working, because my thing was, you know what? This will be a good time to find a job because I'm not competing with as many people. So I was putting my resume out there. Meanwhile, I'm having issues with my lungs, and it's not smart to be out here actively seeking work or working amongst people. So I did end up landing a job, and the good thing is that I'm off in the corner, so I'm not really sitting next to anyone. Like, I have like my own like whole little space to myself. And it's crazy because I was telling my friend that one of my girlfriends, like, when it was really bad, like around December, January, I couldn't go 1 hour without coughing. I'm like, how am I going to work and I can't stop coughing? So her questioning was very rude. It was very insensitive, you know. And you gotta think, many people lost childcare, like they didn't have childcare for their children, so they had to be at home. Not everybody has grandma to watch their children. We live in a society which is very individualistic. It's not very family orientated like many other cultures, where you have 3 generations of people living under one roof, where if I have to go to work and I leave, there's always going to be someone home. not everybody has that. Not everybody has a strong support system. Now, I had a lot of help with my son per se, when he was, you know, he's older now, but when he was younger. So if I had to work in a pandemic, I would have somebody to watch him, but not everybody has that same option, you get what I'm saying? So you gotta think about that too. And also, people whose grandparents weren't watching their children, a lot of people were like, oh, our parents are older, so they were trying to stay away from their parents, you know what I'm saying, during this time, out of fear that they might go somewhere and contract COVID and give it to their grandparents or their parents. So you have to think about that as well, you know. And a lot of people, I also read that 20 million people started businesses during this pandemic. So just because people weren't actively at a workplace does not mean that people weren't at home doing things to better themselves. I was able to get up and start making breakfast, healthy breakfast, you know what I'm saying, exercising. I got my exercise mat over here, you know, just doing things to make me a better person. So I found her line of questioning just very inappropriate, very condescending. And you know, I have 2 different types of resumes, and I was telling her I tailor my resume to the job that I'm applying to. I'm also a published author. I never mentioned that in an interview. So I was also working on another book that I'm writing. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like when these interviewers are interviewing people who've been out of work for months at a time, keep in mind that just because they were out of work, that doesn't mean that they weren't doing anything. And even if they weren't, that's not your business. They are currently applying for a position. They want to be hired. They saw the role online and they applied for it. And that's what they are interviewing for. And so you should tailor your questioning toward their skill set and what they could possibly bring to the company, not shaming them for being out of work when you don't know what the reason was why they were out of work, period. And so if you have been on interviews post-pandemic, even though we're still in the pandemic, you have been questioned on why you've been out of work, let me know. Like, you got some inappropriate questions. And once the Zoom call ended, that's when I was able to sit there and really think about the line of questioning. And honestly, I wouldn't want to have worked with that company if I was hired, because I wouldn't want to work with someone like that. That was just so nasty. I don't even know you, lady. We don't know each other, and that's how you speak to me? Inappropriate. Very, very much so inappropriate. And I told myself, if I ever ended up on another Zoom interview or an in-person interview where someone is questioning me like that, that I would just kindly say, may I please have my resume back? And yeah, no thank you, and walk out the door. I'll never sit through another interview with someone questioning me like that, when in all honesty I was probably more qualified to do the job than she probably was. So yeah, I guess this was kind of like a rant, but I just wanted to share my experience since that's what I do on my channel. And yeah, that is it. So I'll see you guys in my next YouTube video. Toodles.